What's up, YouTube? It's your Huckleberry here. You can call me Huck. Back with another Amala and Kenobi video. So we're going to get right at it as she talks about what's going on in Minnesota a little bit. So without further ado, I know I'm rather small on the camera. I don't want to block out anything she wants to show us.
Today we're headed to a House Oversight Committee hearing where we're talking about the issue of wide-scale fraud in Minnesota, particularly fraud being carried out by Somalis or Somalians. Now, recently Nick Shirley put out a documentary that I think many of us saw, became one of the most viewed videos on X, where he claims to have uncovered over $100 million in Somali fraud that is being carried out through different daycare centers and healthcare companies in the state of Minnesota. Now, there has been a lot of interest in this story. A lot of people uncovering.
You're in denial. You're in absolute denial, and you're being duped if you don't believe that this is actually happening.
Even more fraud on top of that, particularly in the state of Minnesota, but in other states just like it. And now we have this House committee hearing that is talking through these issues. And I'm going to show you a clip that has just blown my mind here. It's going to feature a Republican from Texas. He's a congressman. His name is Brandon Gill, and he's questioning Brendan Ballew, who is a former DOJ prosecutor who's there on behalf of the Democrats, being a witness for them in this hearing. Now, we're going to get into the topic of Somalians and how they impact the American economy, our welfare system, how they assimilate to the United States. Let's watch.
Mr. Ballew, again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%.
There's a huge difference between 54% and 7%. There's a huge, huge, huge difference. And if that stat alone...
Okay, so that's like 45, give or take, percent higher. 45% more of the Somalian population in Minnesota is on food stamps. That's damn near half of them all.
It's not enough to maybe put you on the edge of your seat a little bit, start getting you to investigate this a little bit further. Just wait till you hear what he has to say next.
Yes, they're not.
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here.
And if that stat alone is not enough to maybe put you on the edge of your seat a little bit, start getting you to investigate this a little bit further. Just wait till you hear what he has to say next.
Yes, they're not.
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
74% to 18%. It is an astounding difference. And I have a feeling, okay, that when we get into this, he's going to try to discredit
50% more again.
Either the stats that he's putting out or discredit the way in which he's framing the question and framing the stats that he's throwing out at him. But they're real. 74%, 18%.
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%.
78% after 10 years of being in the United States. And I know typically when we're talking about welfare, we do want to help people. We want to get them back on their feet. But if in 10 years' time you are still relying on the U.S. welfare system in order to run your household, to take care of your family, something needs to change. And if that particular statistic is not existing in native Minnesotan households, what is it that's different about Somalians coming into this country that creates such high numbers of...
Okay, so this is what's different, is that they're coming from an uncomplicated society in Africa, and they're coming over to Minnesota in what is a complicated society. There's lots of things that they don't understand and they don't get. And if you want to learn more about that, I encourage you to go watch the video that I did here recently where the Hodge twins hosted Andrew Tate, and they go into that a little bit.
Reliance on the government and reliance on the welfare system. Riddle me that.
So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somalis.
So you see, he's trying to discredit him by saying, you know what, the number of actual Somalis who have just immigrated to the United States or are first-gen immigrants to the United States is only around 8,000 in Minnesota. I'm sorry, but if 80% of 8,000 is continuously on American welfare and they're not getting off the welfare program, if they're relying on Medicaid, if they're relying on food stamps and they're not getting out of these programs, what does it matter? The stats are still the stats. And I'd venture to say that if we look into second-gen Somali households and run the stats on that, we would have very similar numbers to what he's espousing to this guy today. So your point?
Yes, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here.
Go for it.
Again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay, well, what percentage of working-age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again,
I just don't like the way you framed the question. Let's just go ahead and skirt the question as much as we possibly can and try to attack him on framing rather than getting to the heart of the issue, which is that these individuals are coming into the United States. They are utilizing our welfare programs. They're utilizing systems that are meant to put you in a better place so you can start contributing to this country. And on top of that, they're not assimilating. They're not learning English. They're creating, honestly, at this point, their own cultural enclaves. And we've now come to find in Minnesota that they're frauds in many cases. And this is not a video to go and attack all Somalians, okay? I'm sure there are Somali immigrants who have come into this country, who are contributing, who are doing their jobs, who are hopefully paying their taxes. But if we can look at these stats and see how genuinely concerning they are, if we continue to get stories about Somali fraud happening in states like Minnesota and all over the United States, when do we address that? I think this guy is scared of being called a racist and a bigot for answering the question as it actually stands. I think he's scared of stepping out of the multiculturalist viewpoint that people make cultures better and make our society better just because they're from a different place. And it's not true, okay? And I think we are walking on eggshells trying to talk about this issue because these people have a different skin color, because they're from a different country, because we're scared of being called xenophobic, Islamophobic, whatever the case may be. The list goes on about the different fears that people feel when wanting to address an issue head on. And luckily, this guy from Texas does not give a damn, okay? He's saying, here's the numbers. Here's the way that these people are impacting our economy, our systems, our institutions, and something needs to be done about this. And no other country in the world, it seems, well, the West has a problem right now with immigration, would be really, truly allowing this based on the immigration laws that they have set in place. Do you think you or I can just pick up, move to another country without a job or a plan to be contributing to their economy? Do you think you can just hop around to any country in the world and then just jump on their welfare system and remain there for 10 plus years and then not learn the language and not integrate yourself into their society, into their culture, and into their way of life? In the West, you're now allowed to do this, and we see how that's going for all the countries that have just sort of opened the floodgates to this. But now that the floodgates are open and we see the issues that are popping up, it's kind of time to play whack-a-mole a little bit. We got to do something about it because it's abundantly clear that many of these individuals are coming to this country not for the opportunity to contribute to the country, but for the opportunity to drain the country of its resources. Okay, and even further than that, commit acts of fraud to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions, some are speculating, in looking into this further. So maybe when you're asked if they're an overall good on this country and that this has been like a successful transition of allowing immigrants into this country, maybe the answer is no. And that's okay. It's not racist. It's not bigoted. It's not xenophobic. It's the truth. And here's what I'll do. See if this helps. We can step out of the United States to talk about this issue because it turns out we're not the only country who is experiencing this exact issue. There's been research done in the Netherlands where they come together with figures of how much the average immigrant from X place is costing the country. And you're going to want to hear.
So before we go into that, I remember doing some research. I heard the argument this country's been built on the back of Somalians or whatever. The first Somalians came to this country in 1920, and it was like a couple handfuls, 20 people, 10 people, something like that. And it wasn't very often that we would have Somalians even come in until more recent decades. And then you look at what they've contributed to our society, and the only thing that's notable is all the mosques that have been built in and around their communities. I was watching something that Angela Rose did a video on where she was in Denver, and I guess, like rules and regulations in this factory say that you had to be on the line the whole time, and Somalians ended up getting fired, like 200 of them, and then 138 of them sued and won like millions of dollars because they left the line and they weren't supposed to according to the laws, but they claimed that they had to take some kind of religious break or something, whereas, if me or you wanted to leave our job so we could go take a nap or something like that for however long, like we would totally get fired and we'd have no ground to stand on. So what are we doing here?
A North American immigrant that goes to another country will contribute in their lifetime $573,000 to the country. A Scandinavian immigrant will contribute over their lifetime $557,000. Immigrants from Oceania, $476,000. A Japanese, $525,000. Someone from the UK, $481,000. All those are net positives for society. Well, now let's look at the ones who cost society. Someone from the Middle East, it's a net loss for these immigrants at a cost of $624,000 over their lifetime. Caribbeans, $675,000. Central and North Africa, $700,000. Sub-Saharan Africans, $730,000. And it leads us to the worst offenders, the costliest immigrants to a society in the Netherlands. Somalians. Somalians cost $1.1 million over their lifetime.
I laugh. It's not funny. It's not funny, okay?
Damn, guys. $1 million they drain per Somalian in their lifetime from the Netherlands. This is the Netherlands.
And we should be able to have this conversation. We should be
able to have this conversation, but people don't want to sit at the table and have it. They want to race bait us and say all this, we have tolerance and all this kind of stuff when it's not good for our country.
Be able to have the conversation. And you know who should be really upset about this more than any other group of people is law-abiding Somali citizens, who actually came here, hopefully followed the laws to immigrate to this country, who are
like the ones in 1920 that came over, I bet they've contributed. I bet they contributed, and then their line has contributed more than the combination of the ones that have been here in the last 30 years.
Contributing to this country, who are paying their taxes and who are not committing acts of fraud, because the others around you, I think, are ruining it for you at this point in time. That's all.
And what did we notice about all those places that were draining the Netherlands? What was it? The Caribbean, Africa, the Middle East, all third world. These are third world places. It's ridiculous. That's why you can't take a huge group of third world individuals and dump them into societies that aren't like that. It brings them down. They don't know how to process and handle it. It sucks for them. But would they rather learn the language and learn how to be productive? No, they'd rather just steal, rob a store or steal money legally or whatever than assimilate and learn the culture. That's what people used to do when they were immigrants. They used to come over, they'd learn the language, they'd assimilate into society, and they would be productive. That's not how it now. They come in and they isolate themselves. They drain our economies or our tax money. And they don't even learn the language. And then take these daycares, for instance, like you can't even put your kid into one of their daycares unless you're Somalian, which is probably why they're trying to produce a ton of Somalian babies, because they're doing that loophole of sovereign, being born in the country and then gaining citizenship that way.
I don't want to dig my grave too deep.
No, you know what? I don't want to dig my grave either, but it needs to be talked about. It's great that you're doing this video, and other people need to put this stuff back out there, which is what I'm trying to do. Maybe I'll get 5 views, and maybe one of those 5 people will think about what's actually happening here. So go over to Amala's channel, give her a like. I really like her. Ekpanobi. I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name when I'm trying to talk about her, but anyway, she's great. But that's all we have for today, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm your Huckleberry. You can call me Huck. Tune in next time. You're Daisy if you do. Peace.